Hello, everybody. It is Thursday night. It is 8 p.m. Eastern. It's time for your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, and we have so much to cover this week. Coming off a very busy weekend last weekend, we have All In Texas to talk about. We have WWE Evolution to get into, where the ladies had a heck of a night. We got Seth Rollins possibly being injured. We have Goldberg unhappy with his retirement. All that and who knows what else, folks. There's going to be a lot in the next hour, so get ready. Your Big Old Belt Wrestling Podcast starts. Oh, damn, I can't find that thing. Hold up here. I'm making a fool of myself right now. Where is the video? I've never done this part before.
We're live. No edits. We're live.
We are live. I know we are live. I am making us look like a fool right now.
No, not us.
Not us. Me. Here we go. It's live TV, folks.
Right
It's
now.
live streaming, and we are so glad you are here. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast starts right now.
Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt, Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really need, that Big Gold Belt.
I will own that entirely.
Oh,
I
that
did
was
what
great.
I did. I couldn't find the video. That is on me. Everyone else can hold that one against me. Thank you for being here tonight, folks, for your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. This might be a crazy next hour because we got a lot of plates spinning here, and I can't even find the video to start the show. But we are so glad you are here with us for the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast, Season 5, Episode 24 tonight. It's been a while since we've had this many of us together in one place, so we will have a lot of voices in the mix tonight. I am in the top right of your screen. I am Will, and we got, let's go around this way here clockwise. We got Silly Sellis for the first time in a long time. Across from me in the upper left, down below him, we got Giant Crab. Down on the bottom right, we have Damian G down in the Lone Star State. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing after a very long weekend of wrestling?
Doing good. Ready to talk about it.
Lord knows there was a lot of shows. So
A lot.
Well,
Too many.
let's start out with Damian's area. Let's start out with All In Texas down there in
Ironic.
Arlington. Down there. Yeah, you were hoping to go last week. That didn't work out for you
No.
to be there live in the building. And Lord knows, one of the big talking points of the show, I guess, will kind of be, that was a long damn show. You probably could have snuck in there later in maybe like the second half or something, because it started in the afternoon and it was still going on with Saturday night's main event hit the air later that evening at 8 p.m.
We kind
So
of what happened.
Yeah, I did not see the whole thing. I saw the main event. I saw some of the stuff earlier on in the day, but with a full day commitment like that, it just was not going to happen for me on a Saturday. But luckily, Giant Crab has seen most of the show. Like I said, I've seen the main event and some stuff, so we can get into All In here. Where to start? Do we want to start with the main event? Because that's probably like that was, in a lot of ways, it felt like Hangman and Moxley. You know, we talked last week about how that match was like kind of being sold on the idea. Are they going to pull the plug on the Death Riders finally? They've been building this for months. Is this finally going to be it? And lo and behold, after almost 36 minutes of a super violent Texas death match with blood and nails and barbed wire and you name it, we have a new AEW champion in Hangman Adam Page. They did it to close the show. Hell of a spectacle. I guess it's the best way for me to describe it. Who wants to get in here first to talk about the main event? I guess our thoughts on it. You want Crab? You saw the show, so
I did,
I
saw that, and I did see the main event. So, I guess the big question is for you guys that haven't seen it. You know that, and again, if you're watching this and you haven't seen All In, I can understand that because the show is 36 hours long. But however, this is not a spoiler-free review of the show. We're going to talk about the results of it. So just so you know right now, they've already had a Dynamite. It is what it is. Go watch the pay-per-view. But Adam Page does beat Jon Moxley for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Texas Death Match, cool. You know, I use the term death match loosely because on the death match scale, it was a C+. But then again, this is an AEW death match and not like, Cactus Jack and FMW death match. So you meter your expectations there.
Mainstream death match style.
Yeah. Walmart death match, if you will. So, no problem. The question that I had last week, and this is why I said Moxley should have won, and someone else should have, beaten him later on down the road, whether it was yesterday on Dynamite or on Saturday on Collision or whenever, is I don't believe in Adam Page. So we know that he won. The match is the match. And yes, it is a death match, tons of blood, tons of stuff, and tons of gimmicks. And oh my God, he literally dragged him through broken glass, blah, blah, blah. It is not for the squeamish. It is not for the faint of heart, but it is a literal Texas death match. Knowing how it ends, this is still my question. Is Adam Page the guy to lead AEW? Because he comes out on Wednesday and he cuts the promo that I thought he was going to cut. I'm a fighting champion. I fight for you. You are the people, and the people drive the business. And, essentially he's the people's champion. But that's the promo that every babyface cuts in AEW when they become champion. That's the promo that every, babyface with like a generic, I'm doing this for you, and the tyranny is over of whoever the heels were that were champions, and this is going to be the best day going forward for AEW. And I'm going to, if you have your bingo cards out, check the boxes. I'm going to be a fighting champion, a champion that the people deserve. I'm going to defend it week in and week out. He did most of those things instead of actually call, for an open challenge or invitational or tournament or whatever. And that's not what I'm looking for if we're going to go in a new direction. And then, of course, the way it ends with Shane Strickland coming through, and out of all the things that they put Moxley through and Moxley put Adam Page through, Strickland gives Page the giant chain, and eventually Page winds up lynching Moxley over the top rope to give him to tap out. Okay, fine. But you go from that image of how we close the show with a sobbing, weepy Adam Page, caressing the AEW title that's been hijacked by the Death Riders for the past year and change, to I'm a champion of the people. It's the same party line speech that we see for any other politician / wrestler that's coming out there and working for the people. It could have been a Morgan & Morgan commercial, AEW championship involved, because it was the same thing, we're for the people. So now the question that I ask you guys is, well, and for you at home, do you believe in Adam Page? And do you think that he's going to be a memorable champion after a memorable match to grab the belt?
Celis, you ain't been around a while. You get in here.
Yeah, for me, and I even watched Dynamite on purpose yesterday for the first time in a while. I watched it all the way through. And like Crab said, it was very generic as far as the type of promo that was given. And I was like, I've seen this probably 2019, 2020, that if Adam Page would have won during that time, the same thing would have happened. To me, that means in 6 years, nothing has changed for his character, or nothing has changed for him, what makes me want to be interested more. So no, I think this is going to be a very short-term lived person or a champion. But I think the thing that's the kicker here that we've been talking about for years with AEW, they're not building talent as far as who could be that next person to take over to be the face. Now they got Swerve. Swerve is cool, but who else do you have that can build up, maybe the OGs of the AEW just to build them up? It's like, it's nobody that you're just building up from scratch. Like, hell, I would think Daniel Garcia would be a better, champion if he would have got something of this reign just to say that you built him up for. But go ahead, Crab, what was you about to say?
Let me step in there to kind of like push back on a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
They do have talent that, and it was reflective of the show, because this is probably, out of all the shows that they had, the most complete show for AEW. Every match meant something, whether it was your type of match or not. Everything had some kind of gravitas towards it. and the show was 6 hours long plus a 2-hour pre-show. But every match meant something. So to be fair, it didn't feel like a 6-hour long main card, even though the main card was 9 matches, which is short by AEW standards, but those 9 matches turned into 6 hours. So it really was quality over quantity. With that said, they do have some stars that they are building, especially that was reflective in the main event when they had all of the faces in the locker room, basically even the score with the Death Riders and secure the win for Adam Page, including his longtime rival Strickland coming out with the chain that was like the seal of the deal. So Swerve is over. Him and Will Ospreay won their match. That's another big baby face for him. Everybody in CMLL and the Lucha division that they got going on is pretty much damned over. They do have a good complement of heels. The Bucks, the Hurt Business, and and all of those guys too. The Ops with Shibata, Joe, and what's his face, Will Hobbs. So it's not that they don't have talent, and to be fair to the show, a lot of those guys got spotlighted, especially in the culmination of the main event, to say that like, oh yeah, people are reacting to these guys, and and it's moving in a meaningful way. But let me ask the question, back to you guys. If not Page, then who? Which is kind of piggybacking off of Celis's statement.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. And even just to add to that, right? If you have a group or Moxley have it, the belt, the main title, they're that main event scene for a year and a half. Wouldn't it be more impactful for somebody other than Adam Page? And then, Damian, I could shift it to you because, the moment would have been bigger. Granted, great win for Adam, not taking that for him. You count that under your title reigns. But I think if you have somebody that's been holding this title or a group that's been on that main event scene for a year and a half to hold this, it would have been bigger if it was somebody other than Adam Page, which led to the generic promo that you just mentioned on Dynamite. But Damian, who would you say? I'll let you take a stab of answering. Who would probably be that better person than him?
If he didn't climb Mount Everest, I would have said Darby Allin, because
that's what a lot of people thought from the beginning.
That's who it should have been from the beginning, because didn't he lose his title shot to Moxley in the first place?
Yeah.
So that's why he won the.
He was the first challenger, and then he went away and all that. So everyone kind of figured he would come back from Everest and he would take the shot. Hell, well, he did come back. He descended from the rafters and everything, but just not back to win the title.
And that was my concern, because last week when we talked about it, Crab had mentioned it, the same thing. And I even said, if Moxley had won, then who? Who would take the belt off of Moxley if Page didn't win? I think for me, I agree with Crab's sentiment about Page is not, at least to me, he may be the people's champ or the fans champion, but is he moving merch? Is he getting buys? I'm trying to think big picture, and I hate that about myself now, is I'm thinking big wrestling picture, thinking, I don't think Adam Page is going to get corporate sponsorships saying, who I should stack my product to? That cowboy guy who does the buckshot lariat,
Well,
so.
I mean, to be fair, though, you could have said that about any champion in AEW, because the second thing that we've been crying about for AEW for the past 5-6 years is corporate synergy across the board. Yes, they have gotten better at that recently, but we're talking about the fact that we need these crossover interactions for the casuals. I mean, and everybody does it. Hell, WWE just got Jelly Roll to take a bump. So, yeah, sure, but the casuals need that. And I'm not saying that Adam Page couldn't be that guy to move the merch, to do the thing, have him on Jimmy Fallon and all this other stuff too. But I'm just saying, like, strictly for the storyline, I don't think his character, to Celis' point, has developed enough where he's the leader that the people need, not the leader that the people think they want.
It would have been more believable if he was still leading the Dark Order, as dumb as that sounds, because at least he's the head of his own faction.
Yeah.
Right? So that would have been something. And Page for me falls in the better chaser than champion motif. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Too.
There's nothing wrong with that. You can have
Yeah.
a great career being the Tommy Dreamer, the chaser of the title, right?
Yep.
But I'm interested to see if this is going to be a transitional champion, because
Which was my
I
fear
can
last
see that.
week. Yeah.
I can see that. I can see them pulling the plug after maybe 3 weeks, putting it back on someone just for the shock value of it all. I
Already
just
got
don't see
MJF
it.
teasing. They already
Yeah.
got teasing stuff for
Yep.
this title shot.
I'd rather be MJF, to be quite frank, even though it would be considered a retread. Shoot, put Bobby Lashley, man. Let's see Bobby Lashley going for the AEW World Title, or like Crab said last week, Will Hobbs. I want to see Hobbs go after something big.
Let me work Cupcake in here, our good friend Cupcake. I only watched the pre-show. Didn't want to pay $50 for the event. We say that every time these come up. The $50 price tag does hinder some folks from
Extremes.
dropping the coin on the pay-per-views. But hey, I mean, 6-hour show. that is a.
I will say
value.
that, like, out of the shows that you could have paid for,
Right.
yeah, 50. And I'm not going. I don't know what your pockets are, Cupcake. But I'm just saying in general, of the shows that you could have paid for, this one would have been. This is the show that I wish I would have seen in the movie theater.
Okay.
I mean, I think the show
This is
top to
where we're spelling out
bottom.
some ducats for.
Yeah, the show top to bottom was pretty damn good. $50 may be too high of a hurdle to jump over for anybody, but yeah, the show was an enjoyable watch for the time and for the value of it. Now, unfortunately, it's wrestling, and the show is already passe. 5 days after the event's over, because we moved on from it, and we will continue to move on for it because that's how wrestling works. So there is that, but in general, I mean, just back to the Moxley thing, real quick, because he doesn't need the title. The Death Riders haven't broken up, and that wasn't a stipulation. They will be back in some form. You already have other heel factions like the Hurt Business, coming through and saying things. Darby's back in the picture, again, and it was a good showcase. When you say the AEW, what AEW does is build stars. Well, they had all their stars in the main event in some way, and it made sense from a storyline perspective. Goddamn, that was actually pretty good. A good use of everybody. And Marina Shafir goes to grab the belt with the briefcase with the belt in it, and then she reaches under the desk where it is, and then she's handcuffed by Prince Nana, who pops up, out of nowhere. That's just
Even
like smart,
Nana.
thinking. And then of course Marina is out of the picture, and then the belt can't get back to the ring. I mean, just like really cool sequence of like the last maybe 10 minutes of that match, but. And that's, even though all of that's great, it still leads to like the big picture thinking, which was my biggest fear, was that why do all of this for potentially a transitional champion? Because I mean, we can go around the room. Does anybody want to see Adam Page carry this belt 6 months?
No way.
I think the big feeling is like we've been there, done that.
Right.
This ain't the first time at that rodeo, to pardon the pun. But it's like we've been down this road before, so what exactly about it feels different this time, other than they built up the Death Riders as this big thing for him to be the one to take down. Now, let me shift gears here real quick, because last weekend we talked a lot about how one of the big themes of the weekend, which we'll go into our next show in a second, was women's wrestling. And so the big women's match on this show was Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné for the AEW Women's Championship. And Lord knows we've had talk for months about Mercedes has all these belts. Mercedes isn't, putting anybody over. We're waiting for Mercedes to finally get, from the TNT title on to the, the main title. And here we are. Finally, the match happens. Her and Toni Storm built up really darn well. Toni gets the one over on her. So she finally puts someone over. We got Toni Storm able to successfully defend the title. How did you feel about that one? That's the one match I haven't got around to seeing yet that I do want to see from the show.
Number one, the match was absolutely fantastic. I think that Mercedes' gimmick, even though the CEO thing will always be dumb, it's like a mushroom in the ground. It's kind of grown, and it's in its own thing. And the more that you stop focusing on how stupid the gimmick is, you can just go, sure. It's kind of like that guy that used to yell his own name for some reason, Mr. It doesn't matter, but it's just dumb. No, it will always be dumb. And once you move past that, we can move on to something else. And
Mhm.
once you get down to it, Mercedes finally, in my opinion, has kind of shown why she was a big deal, a big signing when she came in. She had a rough go of it. Part of it was injury. Part of it was bad booking. Part of it was the CEO dance. And then now this is like, finally, we're getting to that point where she's kind of hitting her stride a little bit. Great match with Statlander a little while back. Mina came through a little while back, and now the great match with Toni Storm. And then now, and of course, as we talked about before, when Mariah May left for WWE, what will she do? Because how much of that great promo, arguably still one of the greatest single promos in AEW history, how much of that was her? How much of that was Toni? Well, we know that Toni, again, has absolutely carried her own weight in another great storyline, great match, and a culmination at a damn good pay-per-view. So, it says 24 minutes. Felt shorter at some times, felt longer at other times, but damn good match. And that wasn't even the match that I was looking forward to. And that was the Women's Casino Gauntlet match. And with Athena winning, and Toni finally, thank God, Athena won. And hopefully she can pop up like whack-a-mole around the ROH Paywall of Honor. Eventually, Athena versus Toni Storm is going to happen at some point, which is a very exciting prospect.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we've been waiting for that ROH Women's Title marathon title run to amount to something. So hopefully this is finally going to do something with that. Yeah, that was a very pleasing result to see that Athena got the win in the Casino Gauntlet. Anything else on this show you want to touch on, Krabs? Since you saw the most of it out of all.
Okay. There's two things. Number one, yes, it's Texas. Dustin Rhodes winning the AEW TNT Championship. Why? I mean, really mean just like really why? Dustin got inserted into the match. Adam Cole couldn't make the match, and we can. That'll be another thing that we'll touch on in a second. But why? It was a 4-way match with Sammy, Daniel Garcia, and Cal Fletcher, and then 60-year-old Dustin Rhodes, and you're going, oh, surely he's going to eat the pit. No, he won. Why?
Throwing a bone to the locals.
Yeah.
Texas legend, got to go over.
Sure. So, and that's also a thing too, considering that Dustin was in the Halo versus Face match with the Von Erichs and versus Shane Taylor Promotions. Cute match on the page on the pre-show. Pre-show was actually a lot of fun. For what it was. You had 3 matches, nothing crazy, nothing. If you missed it, you missed it. But it was actually pretty fun to watch. And then Dustin, gets inserted into the match and wins the TNT title. I'm just going, well, why? Other than that, every other match is fine. Don't get me wrong. There isn't a match that I would say you need to skip. This is the bathroom break. This is the whatever. I would say that's not the case at all. The only other thing that I thought that was super interesting and worth bringing up is Adam Cole.
Mhm.
Undisclosed injury, out for an undisclosed amount of time. Teary-eyed Adam Cole with Kyle and Roderick Strong in the ring. Solemn moment. Commentary doesn't really know what to make of it. Adam Cole said, this isn't retirement because I'm not in the headspace right now.
Mm.
We said it before, and of course we'll touch on it with Seth Rollins, who has who suffered another injury, but a similar injury that set him back also. So this is not anything new for Rollins as well, and we'll touch on that shortly. At this point, what do you do with Adam Cole? Whatever his injury is, and I really don't care what it is, because it's obviously enough for him to come out in the biggest pay-per-view in the U.S. and relinquish the TNT title to Dustin Rhodes. Why? But it's still enough where the retirement bug is in the air, and that's the elephant in the room. Whatever that thing is that's holding him back, at this point, do you just go, you know what? It may not be retirement because wrestling, but we've got to hard transition him out of the manager role into a manager role rather, versus whatever it is now, because he's been stop and start for the past couple years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And now
this
it's
isn't
not
anything new at this point.
it's
This
not
has
fun
been
anymore.
his story essentially since he came there.
Yeah.
It's been a very bumpy road
Yeah.
since he came to AEW for him. The rumors going around is that it's probably something concussion based of some sort like that. It seems. I think the biggest thing that jumped out at me is they just went through that deal with the with Queen Aminata, where they had to take a title off her, but they made an interim title.
Yeah.
And it was notable in this case. They're like, yeah, we're not doing that. He's stripped. And that was part of the show I did see.
Right.
The entire tone of that segment was like, this is serious. I mean, it came, like I said in our group chat, it came across like he was done.
Right.
Like it was like, and like everyone knew it, where it was like, oh, he might not never be in the ring again. Or if he is, or put it this way, it's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah.
So between the interim title not happening, between being stripped, and just how everyone was reacting, it certainly didn't come across good. Like it was anything like, minor. It came across very concerning. Is how it came across.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to put that in the show is kind of ballsy for AEW to do, because they could have done a lot of different things, but to insert that live and give him a live microphone and time was interesting. The stripping him of the title was interesting. Instead of canceling the match, they could have stripped him of the title and just given him a bigger segment on Dynamite and said, "Hey, let's
figure out the title later." Yeah,
and we'll figure out the title later, because they love a tournament. They love a scramble. They love a gauntlet match. So they could have done that, and they didn't. They just decided to go ahead and put it on Dustin for some reason. But it's interesting that they were able to do that, and it kind of makes you go, huh? What do you do with Adam Cole now? And and that's also like, not because he can't. Let's say he can't wrestle, but he's gone. This isn't like a thing where he's is even being a manager an option for him, and that might not be something that's viable. So all the best to Adam Cole. But hell of a show. It is 6 hours long, and that's not a joke. The pre-show is 2 hours, and that's not a joke. So it is an all-day affair. All In next year has been announced for 2026 at Wembley Stadium in London. It would have been in Wembley Stadium this year, but Coldplay said no, thank you. So they're going to go back to London. And this will be the last question that I'll ask on that, is that, so they got 27,000 and change, whatever the final number is. Largest show for AEW in the U.S. Not by much, but still a pretty decent number. The stadium holds 42,000 for baseball. They obviously could have scaled down the set and packed more people in there, because if you've ever been to the stadium, basically all of right field was cordoned off, and they used the two or three lower bowls, and the upper sections were cordoned off too. So they could have packed in another 10,000 if they really wanted to, because there was a lot of open space on the floor for VIP areas and stuff like that too. With that said, it's going to be in London next year. Should AEW make it a stadium show, a yearly event in the U.S.?
At this point, given how this went, I think they can, but it seems like they got to probably aim for this around 25K mark. They're not at the point they're going to be drawing, I think, 50K here, unless their business really picks up and they start getting back to that, they can draw 8,000-9,000 a week,
Right.
As long as we're running these smaller buildings, it's like,
but that was
going to take some time.
Thought. Because you got to remember, and we didn't talk about Super Card of Honor at any point last week.
Yep.
Which happened. We didn't talk about Dynamite and Collision, so they definitely made a weekend of it. Tokyo Joshi Pro had a show, and a lot of their talent actually went to All In before their show was on Sunday. So there was a lot of wrestling in DFW, AEW local stuff, and some Japanese talent in town, which was great for the experience, even if you couldn't make it into the big show. It's AEW's biggest show of the year, period. But I think that unless they put on the show of shows, and this is arguably their best pay-per-view ever, I would say, I don't know if it would be worth it to have such a large venue and then get, for whatever the show is, and then get, not massive numbers, because realistically 25,000, 27,000 isn't a major number considering that WWE has done that several times over and will do that for WrestleMania and SummerSlam and stuff like that. I know it's a unfair comparison, but it shouldn't be a tax write-off. It shouldn't just be a numbers kind of thing. The show is good. Watch the show. But they would have to book that show at that level every single year for it to be that hyped. And that's where the problem is for me.
And when you talk about stadium shows too, like we got to talk about more baseball stadiums than football stadiums, or even some soccer stadiums, because when you talk about some of these football stadiums, especially these newer stadiums, you're talking about 80,000 people that can hold in these stadiums just for seating alone. That's not if you alter the arena or alter the stadium. But if you think about some of these baseball stadiums, like let's say over there in San Francisco where the Giants play, that may be a good venue where you can curb that stadium a little bit just to make sure you can get that number of 25 to 30,000. But, you got to think about it that way. But then also too, just to go back, I don't think, we got a chance to say this, but I think Cupcake said something in the chat about who could be the next person to take over for a champion. I want to make sure that's not missed, because I think that was a very great answer of who could take over as champion. That guy.
Gotta get your
That
shout
guy.
out in there.
My
There
guy,
you go.
Cupcake, with it again.
Your guy.
That guy.
There you go. All right, folks, we've had a long first half here since we had such a big show to cover. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to hit our halftime break. When we come back, we will shift gears to WWE Evolution, because there was a lot going on there. The ladies had a hell of a weekend. So we'll get to that. We'll talk Seth Rollins. We'll talk Goldberg, all that other stuff. A packed second half ahead. So stay with us. Your Big Old Belt Wrestling Podcast will be back right after this.
Looking to get your brand in front of people who eat, sleep, and breathe entertainment? Big Gold Belt Media is the place to be. We're all about reporting on movies, TV shows, conventions, and everything in between. And we want your brand to be a part of the action. Partnering with us means your sponsorships get featured right in the midst of our content. Plus, we're going to hype you up on all of our social media, connecting you with an audience that loves discovering new things from trusted voices in entertainment. We're easy to find. Just look for us on Big Gold Belt on all your social media platforms. Don't wait. Reach out today and let's start building something amazing together. Your spotlight is waiting here at Big Gold Belt Media, biggoldbelt.com.
Thanks for being with us here tonight, folks, on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Lots of All In talk in that first half. Let's now shift gears to the other big show of the weekend. And my God, was this a show. So I'm going to kind of throw this out there and get out of the way. WWE Evolution the following night, Sunday night from Atlanta. The ladies show coming for the second time ever. I'm not even sure where to start on this one. So what I'm going to do is, Damian, I'm going to throw it to you. There is a lot on this show. And I think the theme I kind of heard from a lot of people is, oh my God, everything on that show kind of hit. So take it away. Where do you even want to start on this? Because hell of a show.
Let's start at the end.
Okay.
Just because there were so many things that happened. I said last week, inject it into my veins. Give me this paper. Give me this PLE. And while watching it, I kept saying, I need to see this every year. So let's start at the end. Io, Rhea.
Mm-hmm.
That trumps their triple threat with Bianca. I hate to say it because that was my favorite match of Mania, but the in-ring portion, the ref bump, Jessica Carr, she must have went to the Earl Hebner school of bumping, because she took that drop kick and rolled. Good on her. We have the shenanigans outside the ring. Were they going to call it a double DQ? Was it going to be a no contest because they're outside brawling in the crowd? And none of us predicted it. We couldn't have. Naomi's music hit, and she is now our champion in a very Seth Rollins-y kind of way, and I loved it. Stole
the show at the end.
Yes. A lot of people were saying, oh, that took the shine off of Io and Rhea. I'm sorry. Did you see the pops they got on Monday after that match?
Oh,
They're fine. They're fine. So if that was the end, right? That was the crescendo. Let's bookend that to the first match of the triple threat.
Right.
Becky, Bailey, and as Will calls her, Bird Lady. And I've always been on the Lyra train. A lot of people are slow to get on the Lyra train. But make no mistake, she has such good in-ring chemistry with just about everybody she works with. And now that she's showing this nasty side, this more edgy side, I think you said it last week, Will, now it's starting to turn people.
It is.
But
it's even working on me. Spicing things up some.
Exactly. And surprisingly, Becky won. But did that knock either Bailey or Lyra off the beaten path? No. Because they put in so much work that the cachet got brought over, in my opinion, and will get brought over on future events. And then we have the women's, I'm going to call it the Royal Rumble, but the Battle Royal. All I'm going to say is Stephanie won. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic. Lash Legend, kudos for making it to the final two.
Great showing for Lash Legend.
Great showing for Lash Legend. And you know what? I wasn't a Lash guy. Celis, I wasn't a Lash guy. But just like Bill and the Bird Lady, I am slowly being drawn into the powerhouse that is Lash Legend. And the best part about that, too, for me was on social media, people are saying, damn, it's a shame Trick Williams can fight because Lash Legend was amazing. But overall, 10 out of 10 for me as a women's wrestling fan, aficionado, if you want to call me that, 10 out of 10. It blew the first one out of the water. And I really, really need this to be a yearly PLE. Because, and here's why. Not just because of the match. It was the walk-up ticket prices. Remember, last week we were worried that they weren't going to crack barely over 5,000. And then there was a walk-up, and then they opened up more seats. So Celis's point
about over
smaller,
8,000.
Yep, about smaller venues. Have it at a smaller venue. That's fine. But you'll get close to a sellout if you keep giving us women's matches like this, where even the lower card can show their talent and skill and prove that, hey, the women's talent is better than a lot of the men's talent on this roster, right? Like I said on NXT before the call-ups, I said the women's roster was stronger than the men's roster on NXT, save for maybe Obafemi and maybe one or two others. So now we're seeing the fruits of that labor. The women's division is in good hands. The Trish match, I thought that would have been her swan song. I brought it up last week. Potentially that might have been her Goldberg match. And the crowd treated her as such. Was it anything to write home about? No. It was just Tiffany was playing heel. I think that's the only thing that really stood out to me in that match because she's a much better heel than she is a face. But overall, like I said, injected into all my veins, my arms, my legs, my chest. I don't care. I'm going to go watch a replay of that at some point this weekend because it was so good. Women's wrestling is fine. And for all the people who are worried about the 4 horsewomen getting older, yeah, they're going to be okay too because Charlotte getting babyface chance.
No, Charlotte was over. Charlotte was over for the first time in ever.
I would have lost money because I would have bet there's no way in hell they cheer Charlotte. But then part of me said, are they cheering Charlotte or are they by proxy cheering Charlotte because of Alexa?
Proxy.
No, they act
when Charlotte came in for her tag, that place erupted.
It did. I'm just
did a
trolling.
great hot tag. And even that match, even the tag team match, there was a lot happening there. And it was what, maybe a 2.5 hour show, if that?
Yeah.
3.5.
And I felt like it flew by.
Yeah.
It flew by. So bring more. I need more. Give me more.
Damien, I want to add
get in here. You were nodding a lot, so get in here.
Yes. I want to add to that. So just keep in mind of everything that you said, Damien, they really only had 2 weeks to book stories for this event too. Even if they would have had a month, or if like you said, there's going to be a yearly event that happens each year, it probably could have brought the storytelling so much better for what the women can do. So I think we are at a point that this maybe can be a summer event on Sundays, like around this time every year, maybe right before SummerSlam, where I think this could be an annual event. I am with you on that. I do want to only plug Lash Legend because I thought she was phenomenal here,
She was.
but I do also want to future book her. Now, hear me out on this. I did hear about this somewhere, so this is not nothing I created, but I do want to share. Now, imagine this. As much women that was on Evolution, of course, the NXT women's division is overloaded where you're bringing in new women, so some of our women have to leave. Last Legend wasn't on NXT the following Tuesday. Watch when I say this. Last Legend will debut as the muscle to Naomi on that triple threat match on SummerSlam, where you have Last Legend and Naomi building together as two heels to continue Naomi's run as a heel champion. Now, at some point, Last Legend will become face and turn on Naomi, but just imagine that role. They can do that. They did that with Big E. They did that with Batista. Now I think it's time you do that with the woman, and you don't put her at the last two if you're not ready to upload her to rocket ship as a megastar, especially since she's only 28 and about to hit to that prime of wrestling where you can season her a little bit on that main roster the right way with a legitimate star like Naomi that could be her vet. And then Last Legend will be a face of the women's, division on either Raw or SmackDown. But in this case, probably Raw. I think this will be a skyrocket for her to do that.
Ooh, okay. Man, Crab, get in here.
I like the Evolution in general, and I really don't really have too much to add because, much like with All In, every match made sense. Every match delivered. The show was, pretty damn good. The only thing that I would say about why I don't need this to be a yearly show is because do it every week. I mean, this isn't like Forbidden Door where you're putting together a special thing. This isn't like All In where, it's at a stadium, it's a big show because of that. This isn't anything that they could have just inserted into the normal flow of pay-per-views. This isn't, so then like the original Evolution pay-per-view from 2017-18, something like that, was a showcase. It was, part of like the whole Give Divas a Chance era. So this wasn't like, hey, we got women out there. Some of them are signed, some of them are not, but we're going to go out there and make it a thing. This was just a PLE that didn't have any men on it. And I think that's a very different connotation. So I don't necessarily need Evolution every single year unless it's going to be its own concept, like, the Evolution, women's title, not necessarily women's title, but the caveat that if you win whatever the big thing is at Evolution, then you go on to get a championship title match. But the point is that none of these stories are so absolutely crazy that they need their own pay-per-view for. Just do it consistently within the confines of your weekly schedule. And when they have these matches on the pay-per-views, it'll be that. Or if you're gonna do that, then just don't put women on pay-per-views and just have two shows. SummerSlam and SummerSlam Pink, or whatever you want to call it. We know that we can't do that.
The 2-night shows, one night's women, one night's men.
Sure. Do Saudi Arabian style. That won't fly. But to obviously have it as a thing where that you could just book consistent matches. I don't see what the problem is, and I think it could be, it sounds disingenuous when I say that why don't we just have men's only events and women's only events? But realistically, stop treating the women like I don't want to say second-class citizens at all, but just stop, putting the women on the back burner or booking that match as the bathroom break match. No, give us consistent storylines. Give us a reason to watch the pay-per-view or PLE. And we don't necessarily need an evolution unless it is an actual evolution, like a women's death match or a women's this or a women's that a women's Hell in a Cell or something that we haven't seen either before or too often. Let an evolution be an actual evolution, but booking just a good pay-per-view that features women, I'm gonna want to write home about that.
I'd say I think the biggest thing for me when that show was done, I was like, much like Damien was saying, it was such an easy to watch.
Very much so.
It's rare you get a show like that where every match just, they were different enough from each other. They had stakes, they clicked. It just, I don't know. It was a combination of just the crowd and that match layout. Seven matches, a bit more than we've been used to seeing on these WWE shows. 3.5 hours long, a little longer than they've been doing on these B shows. They went a little half hour longer, but I don't know. It just worked. So, and then I think it was also interesting the next night on Raw, pretty much the first hour and a half of Raw was all women.
Yep.
It was a very women's focused show. They almost kind of split it in half, which, hey, if we could have 50% women on these shows, I've been wanting that forever and a day. So it was refreshing to see that on Raw the next night. Now, whether that momentum will continue, who knows? But that 8 o'clock to 9:30 on Raw Monday night was like, oh, we got all kinds of women's matches going on here in women's segments. So, interesting stuff. But
one thing I will say, since we're talking about women's wrestling, and Tokyo Joshi Pro had a show 12:30 on Sunday, and it was damn good. So I obviously that's going to be a little bit harder to find in the US, but of course you can go to their website and check it out. Wrestle Universe also, if they have an app for that. But my favorite women's match of the weekend, period, Mizuki versus Maki Ito. Goddamn, that match was a lot of fun. But the show was a lot of fun, and they did feature some people that that we've seen before in AEW. Billy Starks was there, who's in Ring of Honor, but Yuka Sakazaki was there, who's been in AEW for a bit. The point is that goddamn, that was a fun show, and I have to bring it up since we've been talking about women's wrestling for quite some time. That can't be left and just buried under a very busy wrestling weekend. But if you want more wrestling after all of that from last weekend, go out of your way on Wrestle Universe to go ahead and give that one a look. TJPW Live in Dallas is the name of the show.
There you go. It was, like I said, the women ruled last weekend between all these different shows. It was a heavy weekend for women's wrestling, which is always a good thing to see. For our home stretch here, let's quickly touch on the big two stories coming out of Saturday night's main event, which went against the death match on AEW as the main event was going on at the same time during against this. So let's hit the main event first. Goldberg's retirement against Gunther that closed the show. Which, I don't know, for me, I was like, okay. I thought the match was fine. Wasn't anything spectacular. I loved the little nods to WCW and nostalgia. We had Doug Dillinger banging on the door.
That was Doug Dillinger, wasn't it?
Yes,
I knew
it was. They dug up, I guess, the convenience of being in Atlanta. They got all the WCW folks out there. We had Little Nate out there as the referee and stuff, which didn't end up so great for him when he ate a spear. But Goldberg and Gunther, I thought it was fine. It was fine for what it was. The big story coming out of it seems to be that Goldberg is not happy that his retirement speech was cut off by NBC, but NBC, has a hard out at 10 o'clock, and they weren't going to play around with any of that, so I think this kind of is what it is. But thoughts on Goldberg and Gunther? Sellers, you got any thoughts on that main event?
I do want to give credit to Gunther because I think he's shown that the range of how he can work with different wrestlers, and having Goldberg work was a 12-minute match. That was still impressive with the conditioning and age that Goldberg is, that Gunther had to be the leader of that match. Like, he was the one directing the traffic and things of that nature. And I think we really need to make sure we give Gunther his props. And I make a basketball comparison. To me, I'm seeing Gunther being like the Tim Duncan of wrestling, where he may be not boring to watch, but if you watch and analyze what he can do in the ring, he's really great at what he does, and he can work with anybody to tell a story. So I have to give kudos to Gunther. But WWE has to stop, doing these last moments when they're not really needed, because I think they're just wasting time. I don't want to waste Gunther's championship reign on people that we know are not going to beat him. But once again, I know we want to give Goldberg his kudos if that's going to be his last match. Of course, it's in Atlanta, but I just don't want to waste time with Gunther's reign. I want to make sure he can go against people that legitimately, can they beat him? And maybe it's going to be next against CM Punk. I'm not sure, but I do want to give Gunther his credit.
I'm going to quickly throw Cupcake in here. Cupcake's glad he's gone. Nice seeing Arisa Cat Miller. Some folks were definitely glad to see Goldberg retire. So had to get that in there. And yes, Ernest the Cat Miller also bringing up the WCW nostalgia as part of the walkout crew. Anything else on? Anyone else want to throw anything on that main event? Everyone's good.
It was what we thought it'd be.
Yep. Do you think it should have been better, or is this like actually a fitting tribute for Goldberg? Because don't get me wrong, Goldberg had a career. His career was maybe at its peak 3 years, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
so
it's definitely a long time ago.
Yeah, we're not necessarily talking about somebody that had, a main character, career over the past 25 years. I mean, he's not The Undertaker. He's not Steve Austin. He's not The Rock.
Right.
And then when they tried to insert him in WWE, it didn't really work out. So
that's the problem. That's why it's not as good as it is, because the times he had against Brock and things of that nature the first time, it did not go the way it was. So on a WWE sense, it really is not the same rub as he would have finished strong in WCW.
Yeah. So like, even though the nostalgia is what it is, there are many people that would have a much better career that deserves much more of a bigger send-off than Goldberg doing a thing because they happen to be in Atlanta. It's just kind of like, why are we kind of giving this all this attention when we got Jelly Roll out there ready to move some merch?
It was I called it was WCW's last stand. They're in Atlanta, so I'll always have WCW was my company, so I'll always have a soft spot. So I'm like, now I feel like this is it. There's no one left from WCW. AEW did Sting's retirement.
Oh yeah,
everyone else
right.
is either already everyone else is either already retired or probably in a position where they can't do it. So I was like, this is probably the last gasp of WCW nostalgia far as like involving a match.
Good point.
So, I don't know. It's what it is. So I'll take it for what it is.
Tony Schiavone be the last man standing.
Seriously. All right, let's switch to the other big newsworthy thing that came out of the show. Let's switch to Seth Rollins and his injury, which I have a question mark on going along our banner here at the bottom, because I'm very suspect about this. So we had he did like a moonsault, and he had a springboard and a moonsault. Then he goes down, he's clutching the knee. They stop the match, and we haven't seen him on Monday. He did some media over, was it yesterday or today?
The Rich Eisen show, yesterday.
Yes, he did the Rich Eisen show where he talked about it, and he was very vague about what exactly is going on. Talked about swelling, said he got it looked at. I got the impression that I think Seth is definitely banging. Hell, he's been banged up for a long time. Lord knows. What was it? A year ago at WrestleMania, his knee was bothering him. And there was talk about, he wouldn't be able to do Mania, and he ended up pulling through. My feeling is I think Seth is banged up. He needs a little bit of rest, but I think I don't think he's going to be gone for as long as a lot of people might think. I think that briefcase was a little too prominent on Raw on Monday with Paul Heyman keeping that in the mix there. So I don't know, but just my gut feeling. I don't think this is an Adam Cole situation. I think man needs a little bit of rest. SummerSlam's in 2 weeks. Don't be surprised. I don't know. That's my feeling. Sellers, what are you thinking about this whole Seth Rollins situation?
So I've been going back and forth on it. You make a great opening point on that. Well, I think he is hurt. I'm not sure, because I think if he was seriously hurt, like he tore his ACL again or something of that nature, I think that will be more strenuous to make sure he has the surgery. Seth is doing this, so he's going to be out with relinquish and everything. But I think this is a good way to take him away, just to take the eyes off of him having the Money in the Bank briefcase. You get a chance to bring other people back just to make the moment bigger for him for whenever he does cash in. I won't be surprised if he's even out until Royal Rumble season, where he makes himself come back and just hammers down where you can build him up during that time when you need him. And at the same time, you're still bringing the other people of the faction up, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. You're bringing them up too to make them legitimate on their own and see how you can go maneuver through it. But it's hard to say. it's hard to say because Triple H has pulled our leg before with some of these, kayfabe situations. However, it's just very hard to tell. But I know what you do have to do with Seth. You got to keep him in the atmosphere because his voice and delivery, whether if it's on social media or in the ring, it's definitely a present that he has with WWE. I'm with you, Will. I don't think it's going to be too long, but I think he just needs to have some time away from the ring for a little bit.
Damian, where are you at on this? Do you think he actually got hurt in the ring there? My thinking is I think he was already banged up. And this was a convenient spot to write him out. And
I think that's exactly what it was
in that match.
I think exactly what it was. He was banged up, and they picked that spot like we've seen so many times in matches where someone does what looks to be a simple move, and they like an ankle, and then they wind up losing the match, and then kayfabe wise, they're out for 8 weeks and they're back in 2. You know, so I think that was it. I do believe he might have hurt the knee worse than we thought outside of the ring or what have you going into the match, like he did at Mania against Drew. He just gutted it out. And this is a good way to write him off for a little while because didn't Heyman mention on, I believe it was on Raw, that he still has until next June to use the briefcase. So they don't have to take the briefcase off him. They don't got to pull a Kennedy and give it to somebody else. Sorry, Sauce.
Great segue.
Yeah, sorry, Sauce. But I think what this does too, it does put, to Celsus's point, it does put the onus back on Bronson. I was gonna say Bronson and Bronson. That's a law firm.
Double bronze.
Yeah, double bronze. I like the fact that now they get to kind of already not deviate from Seth, but just be on their own accords and build their own careers up. I mean, we saw what Breaker did on Raw when he dismantled 95% of everybody in the ring during that gauntlet match. I straight up thought he was going to run the distance. So I was surprised that they gave it to Punk. I thought it was going to be some shenanigans that wound up with Punk losing. I'm really tempted to see where they take Bronson Reed, because before he broke his ankles, he was on fire. Everybody.
He's on fire.
So he was on a meteoric rise, potentially to a mid-card title at that point. He got injured. He was the 5th man in the bootleg bloodline. So he was going places. Now that there's no Seth, now that Braun's going to be doing his own stuff, let's see what they – and I've never been a Jonah guy back in when he was in TNA or overseas. But I just want to see what he does with this time now. Because remember, he's a Triple H guy. When he was in original NXT Black and Gold, then he got released. Then he came back, and now Hunter's in charge. So I want to see if he can sink or swim on the main roster and maintain that groundswell of support he was getting before he got injured. But I say let Breaker talk, but let Heyman talk for Bronson for a little while. And then let them establish themselves maybe as a tag team. I saw an AI artwork of them as the twins from Cobra in the Cobra uniform. I think that looked cool. I'm like, you know what? That could fit. If they have like Cobra colors, that would work for me. But all in all, I just can't wait to see what happens next. And back to Seth right quick before I hand it off. He needs a break. He has been the workhorse for how many years now?
Yeah, for the company.
He's earned it. If it's 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, what the case may be, he's still got time for the briefcase. He literally can just cut vignettes. He'll be fine. Or if he comes out on ringside during a match to smack somebody with the briefcase and we never see him in the ring, he could do that too. There's other ways you can use him and still keep the fire lit. So let's see. But I don't believe if he is seriously injured, then we're all fooled. But I don't believe he's seriously injured either.
Yep.
All right, Crab.
Yeah, same. I don't think he has to be seriously injured. But I do think that it's he could use time off. Rollins has been out there doing it for a very long time, and I think this is an okay way of writing him off. And honestly, he really doesn't need to be anywhere for like 2 or 3 weeks before SummerSlam. So, if Well, maybe he is injured, and this is a good way to get him a 2 or 3 week rest. It may be a partially torn this or a slightly torn that or whatever.
Something that just needs a rest.
A bruise this, and like, hey, 2 weeks off, stay off your feet. Okay, cool. See you at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I could see it, especially given now that it's going to be Gunther and CM Punk. Because Lord knows they made a big point of like having Seth Rollins being the thorn in CM Punk's side. So it's just the dots connect a little too easily of, oh, CM Punk could beat Gunther, win the title for the first time since coming back. Oh, and then look who here's coming down the way, and suddenly they're not hobbling on that knee. The knee's fine, and they cash in right there and put a damper on to close the show. It's just a little too convenient. It's a little too convenient, the timing and everything. So, I don't know. Just keep your ears open, folks. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We got a couple weeks here until SummerSlam. And we got 2 nights of SummerSlam to fill. So, the Lord knows they're going to need some big happenings because we got 2 nights of SummerSlam in a couple weeks up there in New York, New Jersey, I guess I should say. So we're at our hour. This was a busy show. I knew it'd be a busy show. All this stuff going on. We didn't even, Lord knows, there was an NXT show that very much was just a NXT TV. That just happened to be a special, that show. I think that's all I'm going to say about that one.
Yeah.
The NXT show was very, if you were missing any of the wrestling last weekend, that was the show to be like, you don't need to go back. It's okay. Go on ahead. All right, let me wrap this up here as we head into next week and what we'll be getting into. So, folks, each and every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast is streaming live on all the social media platforms. Let's see, we're on X, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, streaming live Thursday, 8 p.m. each and every week. After the fact, the feed lives on YouTube, so if you're looking to check it out there and have the video version, it's there along with the audio. We have both versions covered for you each and every week. On social media, you can find us at Big Gold Belt across the board, whether it's Instagram, Blue Sky, X, you name it, at Big Gold Belt is where you can find us. And last but not least, on the web, it's biggoldbelt.com, wrestling, movies, comics, and more. The whole reason I missed a good chunk last week of All In was because I was at Superman. And Lord knows I have not heard much anyone not being about Superman. That movie was, I was hyped going in. I was hoping it would live up to the hype. It lived up to the hype for me. Very pleased with it. How I wouldn't mind seeing it again. So going into this week, I don't know. But my thing to tell you is, hey, if you have not seen Superman, it gets a full thumbs up for me. I'll give it that. Crab, what else should people be looking at as we head towards Fantastic Fours in another week or so, right?
Yeah, that's the 25th, so that's in another week. If you haven't seen Superman, definitely worth seeing. For the little kids, Smurfs, because that's a thing. If you're not into Smurfs, then I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's getting remade and coming out this weekend. But something really different, Eddington, with Pedro Pascal and a bunch of other people that you know. It is a comedy, Western, drama-ish type of a thing about a guy running for public office in a really bad rural cowboy town. So it's kind of like a very modern cowboy movie. So if you're, Hangman, Adam Page approves. But that's what's coming out this week. Fantastic Four next week in IMAX and Fantastivision. And Fantastic Four actually kicks off phase, I want to say 6 of the MCU.
My God. We're that far along with it now. I guess I should be
that far
along ago as it started. I guess that's to be how it is.
What started in 2008. So
yeah, we're coming up on 20 years.
Coming up on 20 years. So
my God. All right, there you go. There's your movie recommendations for the week. Like it said, Superman, can't recommend it highly enough. Next week, my God, we didn't even touch on Roman Reigns' return. We are on the road to SummerSlam now. AEW will be on the road to Forbidden Door over in London. Lots of stuff happening, so I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about next Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We hope you're here with us. Until then, if you didn't see stuff last weekend, you got plenty of time to catch up. And until then, we'll see you next Thursday night. So enjoy your summer, and we will talk to you later.